Hey there, hope everyone is doing good. So, let me begin with some examples. Imagine you walking in a super hot climate. Okay, you have the sun here and you have the sun rays and you are walking through this. Okay, after walking some distance, initially you won't feel any difficulty, but after walking for some distance, you start to feel thirsty. You continue to walk, and after walking some distance you are feeling more and more thirsty. You don't have any water source or anything, and eventually at a point you start to feel this giddiness, this your head is rotating, that kind of feel, and then eventually you fall down. Okay, I think most of you have experienced this is the same thing that happens during the morning assemblies in the school days. You can see a lot of your friends falling unconscious, right? So that's the first scenario. Second one, have you seen snail? Kind of look like this. Okay. Have you tried putting salt over this organism? If yes, you can you might have seen that when you do so, this organism vibrates or shivers violently, and then it eventually dies. Right. Have you seen people undergoing fasting? That is, they don't eat anything, they don't drink anything. Okay, but certain people or the bodies of certain people respond to fasting in a different way. For many of them it's okay. Okay, if they are not doing any sort of activities or anything, if they are just fasting and if they are just taking a sleep, it's perfectly fine. They are giving their body adequate rest and they are conserving their energy. But certain people, they work tirelessly even during that fasting phase, and in these people there is a high probability of them falling unconscious. Okay, so what happened in these three scenarios? The first scenario, you are walking in the scorching heat, and while walking you are sweating enough, you are losing the body's water, you are not having any sort of water sources nearby to replenish the lost water, and at a point when your body's water level has fallen beneath the normal range, you fall unconscious. So what is the treatment in that scenario? Just give some water. Okay, in the second scenario, when you put salt over snails are organisms that are made up of almost 95% of water, and when we put salt over that, this salt has an uncanny ability to pull out water from anywhere they are present, and thus it starts to pull out water from this snail's body, and the snail eventually dies. The third scenario, a fasting person working tirelessly, their blood sugar levels starts to drop, and then they become unconscious. So from these three examples, you understood that there was some parameter that went or that dropped beyond the normal range, and our body reacted abnormally. Not only our body, in every living organism, there is a particular balance that is maintained in their body regarding every parameters. When this equilibrium or when this constancy is affected in one or the other way, their bodies start to react in a abnormal way. So this equilibrium or this balance that is present with every living organisms is referred to as homeostasis. Homeostasis. And this will be the topic we will be talking about today. Okay. So how can you define homeostasis? It is the constancy of maintenance of the internal environment of the living organism. Okay, so you have different terms there. One is constancy of maintenance of internal environment of the living organisms, internal environment of the body of the living organisms. So let us first understand what does constancy mean. Constancy means equilibrium, okay, or balance. Constancy means balance. What does internal environment mean? You know that every living organism is made up of cells, right? So here we are considering a human body. Okay, consider this to be a human body. We have different cells here. Okay, when I take one cell from this, everything outside the cell, Okay, everything outside the cell is referred to as extracellular. Extra means out, cellular means cell. So outside the cell means extracellular. Everything inside the cell is referred to as intracellular. Okay, intracellular. Okay, and anything in between the cells. With respect to two cells, if there is anything between them, we refer this to as intercellular. Okay, intercellular. Inter means between. You have two cells here, and I have something in between them. I can say this is the intercellular space with respect to these two cells. Okay, so you have three different terms: intercellular, extracellular, and intracellular. Now, the internal environment of the body. This is the human body. You have different cells. This is the interior of the human body, and inside that you have two cells, right? With respect to this cell, everything outside it is called the extracellular, right? And since it is a compartment, we can say it is called the extracellular compartment. So can I say the internal environment of the human body is equal to the extracellular compartment of the cells present in that, right? So the internal environment of the human body is the extracellular compartment. Now, this extracellular compartment, the human body is made up of around 75% of water, and amongst this 75%, two-thirds of the water lies within the cell and one-third lies outside the cell. So since majority of the extracellular compartment is water, we can also term it as extracellular fluid, because water is also a fluid. Okay, so anything outside the cell, we can also term it as extracellular compartment or extracellular fluid. Anything inside the cell is referred to as intracellular compartment or intracellular fluid. Okay, and with respect to two cells, if there is fluid in between them, we can say that intercellular fluid. Okay, since you are clear about what the terms intracellular, intracellular and extracellular mean, let me explain you one more concept. Even though both three of these compartments, the major component in them is water, the mineral composition within these compartments are not the same. Consider this to be the human body. You have different cells inside. Okay. Consider this compartment to be an ocean. Okay. Consider this to be an ocean. And within ocean, you have different cells. Right. So what is ocean rich in? Ocean means seawater. And what is seawater rich in? Seawater is always rich in salt. Right. And what is the chemical composition of salt? Sodium and chlorine. Right. So the extracellular space is rich in sodium and chlorine. Okay. While the intracellular space, that is within the cell, it is rich in potassium. Okay, this is a key concept you must keep in your mind, because it is a favorite question of many of the examiners. Also, this will be needed in our further lectures. Okay, so major component of the extracellular fluid is sodium and chlorine, whereas the major component of the intracellular fluid is potassium. Okay, now just try to recollect the definition. The maintenance of constancy of the internal environment of the body of the living organism is referred to as homeostasis. The maintenance of constancy means balance of internal environment. This internal environment is referred to as homeostasis. Okay, and just imagine our body doesn't have any mechanism to maintain this homeostasis. Like if there is a subtle change, our body starts to behave abnormally, but it is not the fact, right? Our body always pushes itself to the limit, and then if it cannot do anything further, it shows abnormal character, right? So till the point where there is a change in the parameter to our body pushing to the extreme limit, during that phase our body tries to maintain this internal balance or maintain this equilibrium through various mechanisms. And these mechanisms, since they are for compensating any change in the homeostasis, they are called compensatory mechanisms. Compensatory mechanisms, or better, they can be called feedback mechanisms, about which you will be learning in the next video. Okay, have a nice day. Hope everything is clear. And if you do have any doubt or any queries, don't forget to mention it in the comments. I'll try my best to answer all your queries. Okay, bye.